I'm Julie McCluskey, Director of Communications and Community Engagement for Summit School District. And I'm here today with Superintendent Heidi Pace and our School Board President Margaret Carlson to talk about the new school year. Not only do we have a lot of students back in the schools, it's that time of year, but we also have some pretty exciting news to share about the great progress that we're making in Summit School District. So Heidi, every August, school districts across the state get their results from the Transitional Colorado Assessment Program, TCAP, which is really our way of measuring how students are doing in the classroom.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about TCAP, when that was taken and what it is for students and what our results were?
Sure. So every year the TCAP is given in the spring, and it tests students on reading, writing, and mathematics. We get back results about not only students' achievement, but about their growth and about how our subgroups are doing. So we always look forward to those results and try to improve every year. So we're really happy to report that this year was our highest year ever in the last 4 years, and that we improved across the board. And earned some very special distinctions this year.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
I know a lot of the headlines down in Denver were not so positive. They
Yes.
talked a lot about TCAP scores in school districts remaining rather flat or even going down in some areas.
Yes.
Can you highlight some of the successes here in Summit Schools?
Sure. So first of all, I mentioned that we had a special designation this year. Every year the state rates our school districts, and we have been accredited in the past several years, and this year for the first time we are accredited with distinction.
Hooray!
Yay. Which is the highest level that the state rates school districts. And so we were very excited. It's very much a team effort. We have phenomenal staff and kids and families that all work toward getting that high rating. But it's because we improved so much on the TCAP that we received that rating. Some standouts in terms of our results. Dillon Valley every year does better and better and better, and they are just growing in leaps and bounds. And this past year, again, their students improved on every single test and in every single grade level. And this is the second year in a row, or maybe even the third year in a row where they've done that, which is really exceptional and difficult to do. So congratulations to Dillon Valley.
Oh, that's exciting. And you talked just a little bit about subgroups.
Yes.
What is a subgroup, and particularly at Dillon Valley, one of our more diverse populations?
Yes.
What does that mean for the students in the school?
So the state identifies subgroups in a variety of categories. Some of those are minority students, students of poverty, students with disabilities, and so on. So they measure their growth as well to ensure that they are moving toward proficiency in all of the tested areas. And I'm happy to report that, again, our subgroups are doing very, very well. And we have literally closed the gap in many of those areas among all of our subgroups. And by closing the gap, I don't mean between subgroups. What that means is that students are achieving against the proficiency level.
Ah, great.
Yeah, so they're becoming proficient and advanced on the TCAP measure, and that's how we close the gap.
Oh, that's great. I know that we're measuring both achievement, how well a student does on a test,
yes,
but also growth. Can
yes.
you explain growth a little bit and what that means for a student?
Sure. So we are looking for students to grow each year, and the way that the state does that is students are put into performance groups. So if a student performs high on a given test, then they are compared the next year with students who also performed high on that test. So we're looking for students to have what we call typical or high growth, no matter how they performed the previous year. So that shows us that students who performed at a high level can continue to perform at a high level, and students who have a long way to grow can also show that high growth. And we've been, again, fortunate to have high growth in many areas across all tests and across different schools.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
And Any other highlights or special recognitions, shout outs you'd like to give?
Sure. Well, I think there's probably something for every school, but I probably can't name them all off the top of my head. But a few of them. When we receive from the state the school performance framework, it gives a rating on each area of in academic achievement and academic growth gaps. And we exceeded expectations for many of our schools on a number of those areas. In particular, the ones that come to mind are Upper Blue, who not only exceeded in the area of academic growth and in academic growth gaps, but they achieved 100% of their targets. So
wow.
That's really unusual. Similarly, Summit Cove also exceeded their targets in academic growth and growth gaps, and achieved 100% on, I believe it was academic growth gaps. And we have a number of those results. Another real standout result is our high school. Summit High School this year met all of their targets or exceeded all of their targets on every test for every group across the board, everyone tested. And that means for the first time, for example, all of our graduation target rates for all of our subgroups were met this year.
Wow.
So a huge congratulations to Summit High School for that achievement.
Yeah, and I believe that graduation rate now is above 90%.
That's correct.
That's very exciting as well. We've hit a target that we've held out there for a while.
That's correct.
Congrats. Margaret, any comments about all this good news, both the results from our TCAP scores, but also the accreditation rating?
Sure. Well, first, a huge congratulations to our teachers and our students and their families who've all worked so hard. And this designation is just a great confirmation that the work they're doing is not only hard work, but it's the right work. And as we all know, working hard is one thing, and working smart is even better. And I think this proves that what teachers are doing with students is really working smart. It's just such an honor to be in this handful of districts in the state that have been given this designation by the state, and we know, this is good company to be in. Also, this is something I like to talk with people about. Is that this is one designation that's given to us by the state, but it's one measure of success, really. And in Summit School District, we do know that the social and emotional and physical well-being of all of our students really is just as important as the designations given us by the state. And in order to achieve, really, the kids need to be healthy all around coming into school. So we are just thrilled with our new title, and we'll continue working to keep our title and always looking for ways to improve next year too.
I think you've made some great points. I love the comment that yes, it is more than a test score, that we look at children as human beings and that there is a whole child there to educate. And it's exciting that we're doing so well in our main purpose and our main role here in the community to make sure that our kids are getting a sound academic education. But we do look at the whole child, and there are other accomplishments and successes here in the district. It's a great comment. We'll be celebrating this great success, I think, for weeks and months to come.
Yes.
But we do hope to host a community celebration here in the next few weeks, so please watch for that. And in just a moment, we'll come back and talk about the start of school and one of our particular areas of focus here as we start the 2014-2015 school year. We'll be back in just a moment. Hello, I'm Julie McCluskey with Summit School District, and I'm here talking with Superintendent Heidi Pace and our board president, Margaret Carlson, about our back to school efforts now that we're in August, September, and it's time to be learning again. And one of the focuses that the school district has selected for this next year is on improving and making parents more aware of attendance in schools. So Margaret, why don't we start with where this all began last year with student attendance and what we were seeing in the schools?
Sure. Well, last year we began some conversations with our community and our parents and our staff really about attendance. It was brought to our attention at the board level last year. Attendance conversations have been going on for years, but last year it came to the board as something we really needed to look at and support our principals and classroom teachers in talking about attendance. And so what we did was we kind of made it a priority last year, and we reached out to families through our building accountability groups and community meetings, and we started having these conversations about the importance of attendance. Education isn't what it used to be, like everything else, and it looks very much different in the classroom than it used to. Expectations for our kids are different these days, as we talked about on our last topic about growth. Each student is responsible for growing from point A to point B over the course of each school year, and each classroom teacher is responsible for getting those students from point A to point B. So in order for those kids to get there, they need to be in school. And we set out to have some conversations last year about how to really just raise awareness about the impacts of absenteeism, and not only absenteeism, but tardiness can have on student learning.
Oh, that's great. And just walking through what happened last year, I know the board considered changing the school district policy around attendance. What was the outcome of that discussion?
Well, there hasn't been a policy change on attendance, but we really are committed to just, like as I said, raising the awareness about the impacts of attendance. As I said, learning in the classroom looks different than it used to, especially with our IB learning model. Classrooms are much more interactive. They're collaborative. There's a lot more conversation going on. So it's really not just a matter of, okay, turn to chapter 3 in your textbook, and if you miss this week, we're on chapter 4. It's really more of an experience. So in order for the kids to be part of that experience and move along with the class, they need to be there. And for parents to understand that is really important for students. Students understand that too. And it's just, if you miss class, you can't make it up by just getting a packet of worksheets like maybe you could in the past. You really need to be part of the conversation.
Oh, that's great. And I know that the school board at the start of August passed a proclamation unanimously calling September 2014 Attendance Awareness Month in Summit School District. You've mentioned the importance of awareness. What's your hope for the month, Margaret? What do you hope every child learns about attendance in the next 30 days?
Sure. Well, I know that a lot of schools give positive reinforcement for good attendance, but we also know that a lot of it comes down, especially in the younger years, to parent awareness. So I hope those kids can take what they've learned in school home and share with their parents, and we're also reaching out at the district level too with communications and awareness pieces to send home to parents. And I hope what we really get out of it is just kind of an increased understanding of the impacts it has on your student's classmates, and your student's teacher if they're habitually tardy or if they miss an excessive amount of class, and really just to get people to think twice before they make an appointment or choose a time for a family vacation. I mean, we completely understand that there are unavoidable absences and illnesses and emergencies, and sometimes those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that you can't pass up. And that's not really what it's about. It's about just raising awareness of the importance of being there when it is in your control to have your child there.
No, that's a great comment. Certainly we don't want children coming to school sick. When that happens, we get a lot more people sick, including our teachers, and that's not good for anybody. I know that some of the statistics we've looked at have said that, students missing 10% of the school year, even 2 days a month, can impact their academic performance. And by 6th grade, students who have had poor attendance records really can be on a path to drop out of school. Those kinds of numbers are frightening, and we want to make sure that our kids are on the path to success. From your perspective, Heidi, what would you say, attendance, what have you seen over the years? Why is it important to classroom learning? And what would your recommendations be to both staff and families?
Well, as you said, attendance matters. And it's difficult to actually teach something new if the student isn't present, and for that student to really be able to, as Margaret said, interact with the learning and understand it at a deep level. It's not as it used to be in the past. Years and years and years ago, maybe when I went to school, where if you missed a day of school, you could catch up with a worksheet or something like that. It is very different. It's very interactive. There's a lot of interaction with technology, interaction with one another, deep conversations. As again, Margaret mentioned, in terms of having an IB education, International Baccalaureate, it's inquiry-based. Much of it is driven by interest areas of the students as they work through a unit. And exploration by kids, and they need to be hands-on, minds-on, present in order to get the most out of that. So it matters. I think we all understand that things happen. I raised kids too, and had times when either they were sick or we needed to make a doctor's appointment, but I always try to make it a priority to think about, can the appointment be made after school, or is there another time to do this? And obviously there are special occasions where there's a 50th wedding anniversary or something like that, and you want your children, of course, to be part of that, and that may not coincide with a school vacation. But when I had kids in school and had to make decisions about just family vacations, I always tried to make sure that they corresponded to the school calendar, understanding that there are some special circumstances out there as well. So, we want our kids in school. We love our kids to be there. Teachers miss their kids when they're not there. And I think the kids miss being in their classroom and working with their classmates when they're not there as well. So again, we hope to raise awareness. We hope to have great school programs to incentivize being at school when it's appropriate and you're healthy and so on. And the other piece is staying through the school day. Because that also interrupts a student's education if they're leaving on any kind of a regular basis at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon because of an appointment or something that's come up that could be avoided or done at a different time. So we're just asking again for families to think about that and to raise that awareness and try to schedule things accordingly for their students so that they can continue to be the accredited with distinction students that they are now. All the growth that they have shown has been phenomenal, and we just want to keep that going for their sakes, to get as many students through and at the highest levels of learning that they would like to achieve and that their families would like for them to achieve.
Oh, that's great. I like that phrase that you used, hands-on and minds-on. It really is important to be present and a part of that learning. Right. I had an interesting conversation with a parent who said, if nothing else, this is good training for the working world,
That's
right?
True.
You can't show up late to work, and you can't just call in when you want to go ski for a day. So I thought that was a good way for our kids to understand the importance of attendance too, that this is part of preparation for that next big step into a career or college. Well, thank you both. This has been a great conversation. You can learn more about Attendance Awareness Month at our website, www.summit.k12.co.us, or follow us on Twitter @SummitK12 and follow the hashtag #SchoolEveryDay. We'll be talking about attendance strategies and ways to make sure that you get your child to school on time every day. Thank you.